Okay, so today we are going to make a chalk drawing of a vegetable or a fruit, your choice. And I have two different techniques here that I did, and for this video I'm going to focus on just one. So in the image to the right here, that is just kind of regular chalk, rubbing with my finger to smooth it down, and just like a dry application. And then for this one, I did a wet application. So I'm going to explain that. I've never personally seen it done anywhere. I just stumbled across dipping my chalk in water one day and drawing with it to see what happens. So I have a wipe, my paper, a little plate for any dust just in case, and then my chalk, water, and a paintbrush, and some tea to parch my thirst. So you could have the kids obviously draw the picture first, but I kind of just like to start drawing right on the paper. I'm going to find a nice angle of this tomato. Maybe it's a persimmon, I don't know, tomatoey. And then I'm going to choose a couple of colors that I think I see in it, including some lighter values. I'm not going to worry about the green just yet. A little white for the highlights, and I think those are some pretty good choices. I don't think I have a different red in here. That one's a bit more pinkish. And then what I do is I use a wide brush, make sure it's clean, and I just do a watercolor wash, not watercolor, excuse me, just a water wash on the paper. And now I'm going to begin drawing. Okay, now, sorry about that. So now I'm going to begin drawing. So looking at the shape of my tomato on top of the wet, I'm just going to begin to make the outline of it, what I can see. And the best outline that I can. Okay, and I'm just going to switch over to the orange to get more of the top, and I guess I could go ahead and grab the green for the little thingy, the leaf. I don't know if this is a persimmon or tomato, to be honest. Whatever it is, I like it. I don't think tomatoes green quite looks like that on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6 little leaves, okay. All right, just a little rough outline of it so far. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing my color blending while it's wet. So you do have to work kind of fast. And you notice it's not as dusty, and the color starts to come out a bit more, I'd say saturated at this point. Sorry, school bell. All right, so it's coming out a bit more saturated at this point. It's still pretty wet. Or damp, I should say. The surface is damp. So it's just kind of soaking up that color. I'm going to start to switch it up. So at this point, I'm just letting the chalk blend together with itself. I'm not using my finger. I will probably start to do that a little more at the end. Has like a weird shape out here because from my angle, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, so I'm just going to kind of try to fix that. And I got a little bit of dust forming, so I'm going to take my plate and just tap it in there. I like to do that because it's a good place to gather it, easier to clean instead of just blowing it away or tapping it on the table. That can get quite messy. Excuse me. So we've got some ridges in here, so I don't forget about those. I'm just going to kind of draw those in now with my chalk, where I see a little bit more kind of blushy red. Excuse me, I'm going to add that. And now I'm going to switch it up to this paler yellow. And I'm not forgetting about the little bit of a shadow I see under there. We're going to get to that. Excuse me, I'm going to cough again. making a bit of a mess. I'm smudging because I'm resting my hand on it and I'm forgetting to hold my hand up. So you see that little mess. It's okay. That's why I have the wipe. So I'm just going to try to clean my hand up a little bit, and then with the cleaner spot of the wipe, I'm just going to carefully, not rubbing hard, just very gently, and it'll totally pick it up. I learned that on my other example. Fix where my hand was. All right, back to the pale yellow, yellowish color. What this does, it's going to start to pick up those other oranges as you're kind of blending it, and it makes more a closer color to that. Make sure you can see. Sorry about that. Go back with the orange on top of it, trying to pay closer attention to those little divots in the tomato. The bumps, the ridges. So at this point, the paper is starting to dry a little, and that's okay. What it means is that now it's just going to get a little bit more dusty, but I'm already starting to get these layers of color that I'm looking to see. I want to bring some more red up, make it a little more blushy. At this point, I could start to use my finger some more and push in that color. Again, I'm not watching my edges. Bad me, bad me. I need to make sure I keep my hand positioned more upward, because I'm learning as I make this video, that is a little harder to do while positioning myself this way. So I'm going to try to rest my wrist here on the table instead of on the paper. Otherwise, I'm going to keep having that same mistake. Start to drag these colors up. Smooth that down. I'll be able to clean these edges up with another little trick I've kind of been playing around with. So I'm not worried. Starting to get that. Now as I look at it, it's not quite as bright yellow in some spots, and there is brighter yellow. You'll notice that one is a little bit brighter. Clean it so you can see. A little bit brighter. So I'll switch to that and go in and add those yellows, and I'll just do that right on top. I like to use my clean hand to hold my paper in place while trying not to touch chalk with this hand so I don't get those extra little smudges. There's that elegant. All right, that's looking pretty good. I think the last thing I'm going to do here is try to emphasize more that those little ridges. And I'm pretty happy with how this is going now. All right, so now I'm going to get the green, and I think I'm actually going to just take a smaller brush and get this area wet again. A little bit too much water, but that's all right. We can still make it work. Just dab it with a little more water than I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and do a base coat of my green. Alright, and then I'm going to find a darker green and a lighter green. And this is darker, yeah. And then I'm going to try to, that's the same. That's the same. There's the darker green. Try to define some of my edges a little bit better. Finding it a little difficult to distinguish these two greens. So maybe I'll introduce a little bit of grayish color. weird leafage is not the most simplest to convey here, but we'll get the point across. Grab some lighter green for some highlights. Really don't like the middle of that. I'm sorry, you get the idea. Again, I'm making a mess. All right, and the last thing to convey is shadows. So if we look here, you usually have two kind of shadowy areas. There's going to be more, but for the purpose of doing this at this level, we're going to focus on two shadows. So we try to find our two main cast shadows, which I see one there, and then a circle there, and then a darker spot in between. So in drawing my persimmon tomato, they're probably related. I should look that up. I'm going to do a circle attaching to this part, sort of semicircle, if you will, and then another one coming a little further out. This might run off my page, because this one casts a little bit longer. So the part where they intersect, that's going to be black. This black is a little crunchy to draw with. There we go, that's better. Just flip it over if it doesn't want to work, right? And then got some dust happening here. Tap that off. All right, and now I'm going to give it some gray. I'm not too concerned about making the different darkness of the shadows. I can play around with it, but I just don't see the importance of that at this point. This is a 5th grade lesson, and I think getting them just to see these two shadows is good enough. Smooth it down with my finger, trying to stay within the defined area. I could, if I wanted to play around with the idea, do a few strokes of black to mix up that powder, not too much, because that is the darker shadow, and then go in. Here's my finger. Alright, a little messy. Now there's the shadow around the bottom of the leaf, so let me try to convey that. And then I might be able to do the last step. Okay, so my final step that I learned in doing the apple is I can clean up the edges, not only with the wipe where I've smudged on accident like a million times. Give that a tap. But also if I take a small brush, not too wet, I like to dab it on something, and then just paint water on it to clean the edge. It's going to look like I took away the chalk color, but when it dries, that chalk color is still there. You've just helped to clean up the edge. You can go back even and add a little more red if you think you took it away. I know I did because I kept smudging right there. Already see the other side is starting to dry. Hopefully this will help my leaves, because I am not super excited about those. I might be able to add a little bit of texture to that, just playing around with it. I can even maybe dip that in the water, kind of play with that. Add a little black in there. Alright, so I'm pretty good with the way that looks. I can also do the same technique to clean up these edges. on this one, I did paint water on top of the chalk in the whole surface of that gray, but I feel pretty good about the way my gray looks, so I don't need to do that. If you don't have to do it, then don't do it. In the black, I'm going to do it too, because I didn't get that quite as smooth as I would have preferred. So I'm just going to push that chalk around, clean up that edge. Maybe push it a little further over to the side. On the bottom of my apple. And then the one last thing I didn't do is I didn't add my highlight. So I want to look wherever the light is bouncing off the surface and try to add some white little reflection. It's not much. There it is on this one. The apple I did was much shinier. But that's pretty decent. So that's how we do it. You can see the edges are already drying. I still have some smudges I need to clean up. So that can be my final thing. Take the wipe. Okay. Now it should be said, I'm doing this on a sort of cardstock, not regular paper. I experimented with this on regular paper and it just balled up and would start to rip. So that is it. Enjoy.